Now, I would like to take the opportunity to invite Phil Fersht, CEO and Chief Analyst at HFS Research. Phil requires no introduction. He is widely recognized as the father of robotic process automation when he authored the first analyst report on RPA, introducing this topic to the whole industry. He is widely recognized as the pioneering analyst voice that created and inspired today's RPA and process AI industry. Please join me in welcoming Phil.
Thank you, Mittal, and good morning to everybody for joining today. I look forward to sharing my session. My name is Phil Fersht from HFS Research, and I'll be talking about OneOffice and the role that intelligent automation plays, and we'll be touching on the data, which is the strategy, the automation, which is the discipline, and then AI, which is really the refinement of that strategy. But to start with, we ran a major study towards the end of last year across 400 of the global 2000, and what we pulled out quite quickly is that only 37% of these organizations are ready to return to a office-based environment. They really want to go back to where they were before. The rest are committing much more to remote working. They're monitoring their productivity. They're really looking at this work from anywhere model, and already 51% are keen to move into this. And this is very, very impactful for how we see things evolving in the future, especially with companies where you have lots of shared services staff, support staff working remotely, and companies like Unilever and Amazon and Microsoft are coming up with these we are now work from anywhere businesses. They're not going back to the heavy real estate people cluster businesses of the past. So this is having a massive impact on what the world's going to look like as we unravel the whole pandemic situation over the next few months. And you can see here from the same study where we actually brought out the 150 C-suite executives across the global 2000, and they actually see they actually see COVID-19 becoming the absolute burning platform to change by a very, very long way in the industry in terms of changing their initiatives and their philosophy. It's had a massive, massive impact on how we do business. So let's think about where we start here and where we end. And I talk about this in terms of a data cycle. So most companies are actually just getting started on structuring their data, trying to understand what they need to win in their market. This is about, I need to make my supply chain more effective than my competitors. I need to understand my customers' needs and changes, and I sometimes need to understand those before they may even know it themselves. So to get to that data, you've got to rethink your processes. You've got to actually think a lot about how am I going to design my end-to-end workflows, my operations to be effective in this market. Once you've rethought those processes, you've got to then design these flows actually in the cloud. I mean, if you truly want to be a work from anywhere business, you can't constantly rely on on-premise applications and siloed operations. You need to break down those barriers. You need to look at everyone coming together. You need to look at your operations and IT staff working together in 3-tier true web applications in the cloud. So you've got to design these flows in the cloud, and then you've got to automate them. And that's getting difficult, but you really do need to automate your processes in the cloud to get that data. And once they're automated in the cloud, you can start to apply AI across those data flows to anticipate quickly at speed. You can engage with your audience. You can engage with what's going on. You can be much more effective in the business. And then you keep going around this cycle, refine the data, stay smarter, stay sharper, use external inputs and internal inputs to be operationally smart, supply chain smart, partner smart, and cloud smart. This is where this is all heading. And we even run a maturity model at HFS around how to get there. So, you start off with digital enablement as a starting gate where most companies are. You then get to a piecemeal stage of enabling digital in its pilot stages. You get to the next stage we call on the fence, which are around instances for end-to-end digital enablement. They're done at a process level, but not deployed service delivery level. Then we get to an optimized level, which is about linking back for digital engagement, and then finally full transformation. But the sixth thing, which isn't on here, is a talent, and that's the most important part of the model to be effective as a OneOffice organization. And we're looking at the ability of people here to be digitally fluent. So you talked to CIOs today. We had a whole bunch in a roundtable recently, and they said, look, everything we buy today is in the cloud. We don't need to do a ton of customization and coding to these applications, but we do need to understand the business context so we can deploy them effectively for our non-IT counterparts like the CFO, the CHRO, the CMO, etc. You've really got to understand the context of how quickly you need to scale, how agile you need to be, how you need to adopt cloud in the right way. So CIOs are becoming far more fluent with the business context of what they're providing. And at the same time, the non-IT C-suite need to become much more fluent in understanding a bit about database schema and systems and how to run their business in this model. So we're seeing, I think, the first time real interplay between business and technology that we've maybe never seen before. People need to have a much more robust and strong appetite for change. Who thought a year ago we'd be doing $1 million deals over Zoom? Who thought we'd be operating like this? Who thought we'd be doing entire days in digital conferences? Right? We've had to change dramatically, and these are changes that we would have never have made if it wasn't for the pandemic we're in. But we're now so used to using video technology as part of our everyday lives. It's completely changed how we do business and how we emerge from this in the future. We need to have much more initiative and be ready to be self-directed and self-motivated. This whole 9-to-5 job world is gone. That's out the window now. Who cares? You've got to get your job done. You've got to deliver on the outcomes your employees and your clients need. And no one cares anymore about, are you sitting in the office operating between a 9-to-5 environment? That's all gone now. We need to be accountable. We need to be far more interactive. We need to solve problems. And we need social influence. It's becoming very important now. Having influence on others in the company, having strong empathetic skills, energy levels, leadership skills, all these types of things are getting so important now. And then finally, values are so important as well. It's not just about the company having a policy on gender diversity or sustainability. Now it's about what are they truly doing with actions and attitudes. And you look at company ratings on Glassdoor, you look at what people want out of their business. People want to believe in what their companies stand for and their values. We're getting into a very different time on the business. So we talk a lot about OneOffice at HFS. So what is OneOffice? It's quite simply our view of what digital transformation looks like when you put it into action. It's running processes end to end right across the organizational value chain. It's bringing together our most critical, crucial assets of customers and employees and have them work effectively with our partners. It's understanding that the employee experience is a really important part now of the customer experience. The billions of dollars we spent on CRM, customer impact, digital technology, is being spent on employees now as customers and employees operate in this digital duality. It's about driving organizational alignments and metrics and values, and it's not just all about cost reduction. OneOffice isn't an operating model. It's not a framework. It's a mindset. It's a shift to being collaborative, cross-functional, integrated. It's about how do we engage with emerging technology to power our processes that have become natively automated. Not just automated, but it's a culture, it's a discipline to automate. How do we enable our people? How do we empower our decisions? How do we break down the legacy front-to-back silos and create one office that matters? And that's OneOffice. And here, this is a great graphical representation of what it's all about. But we look at 3 tenets of OneOffice. So automation that is native. Automation is not the strategy, it is the discipline. It is the culture that we need. Everything needs to be automated and automated in the cloud if we're truly going to be effective. We need people and processes prepared to change. People prepared to change the processes. I don't think the processes change themselves until we get into serious deep learning, right? And then data and decisions is the other tenet of OneOffice. where we need the data to make decisions, to be successful, to be effective, to look ahead, to be anticipatory. So we need a digital infrastructure that unifies data, that secures data, that digitizes our process. We need an augmented workforce that's united around common goals, common outcomes, common customer impacts, common alignments. We need to start thinking about bringing the customer into end-to-end processes. So let's think about maybe customer to cash, not order to cash. Let's start thinking about other types of ways of designing processes, like design thinking, where you can get proper software now that works in a global environment in the cloud, so people can design processes and data models in a way that's really important for them. And even things like lean are coming back into fashion quite aggressively. And I thought I'd mention, what is happening due to COVID, and then, we did a big study on this last year, is that the CIO is becoming much more powerful in the organization. They've really regained a lot of their former glory as driving a lot of initiatives down the organizational spike. I mean, we have to operate as a cloud business or we're in serious trouble. So they have the most influence now over the procurement of services and tech than anybody. That has shifted much more in their favor. They've become much more of an operator in this market than many other of the protagonists in the C-suite. So the CMO, many of these CMOs became chief digital officers in time. They don't have as much power and influence as they did pre-COVID because of the nature of the business and the onus on technology to really keep the wheels on for many of our businesses. This tech stack is all important. It's how do we build a technology platform that can really enable OneOffice to happen. So once we've designed the way we want processes to operate, we need technology to handle that for us effectively. And you can call us at HFS and we'll take you through all the key products and services within these stack areas. But we look at a model where we engage at an enterprise operations layer. We look at process orchestration and workflow as essential elements of the OneOffice. And then things like RPA and intelligent automation really sit under that workflow area to get things functioning effectively. And we even look at AI ops now as a key capability that works with RPA, for example, and intelligent document processing to really help organizations maybe ring fence some legacy, modernize systems, cloudify processes, and move things into the future. We even look at this engagement layer about conversational AI and how that fits into the equation. But digital workers are becoming much more important to the enterprise mindset now in terms of interacting with employees, interacting with customers, interacting with with your partners as well. And we've seen the whole gamut of automation being discussed in terms of the digital workforce over the last decade, from desktop automation and RDA and screen scraping to RPA itself, which HFS introduced to the industry back in 2012, which a lot of that was around data extraction and process studios. We've seen the evolution of chatbots, which is actually becoming far more sophisticated as we emerge in this world of virtual assistants, and then digital associates, which we're close to becoming digital employees in many ways. So we see products like Watson, IPsoft Amelia, OneDesk, and their products there, and also Microsoft Lewis and some other applications that are important to the industry. So thinking about this, we ran this huge study with KPMG last year across about 600 of the Global 2000. It was a big study looking at intelligent automation, and we actually had to stop the study because of COVID. And so I thought it'd be fantastic to actually see how things shifted before COVID to now. And you can see here, pre-COVID, things like cost reduction and improving brand value were not massively important, but now they're essential for survival. Smart analytics is now essential for survival. 21% view that as a very important way forward. The same as the multi-cloud, the hybrid cloud. That's moved from a cost reduction measure to something that's essential for survival. And even 5G has become looked at as a very important technology for the future. As we try to understand how to operate effectively in this work from anywhere model, you need really strong networks and wireless networks to be effective. And then things like blockchain, for example here, which was really causing a lot of impact and driving a lot of excitement in the market, that's been backburned a little bit. Some of my analysts aren't happy about that, but it has been. And while it improves competitive position, it's not seen as an essential survival technology at this point in time. And we've got to now look at what's happened in the industry, where we were obsessing with RPA going into COVID, and now have to think about what we call native automation, because the narrative has to shift. And we need to think with a cross-functional mindset. Native automators need to cross-fertilize AIOPs and RPA. They need to embrace non-hyped IT automation use cases, and they need to look at OneOffice as the emerging technology platform. We need to think in a non-deterministic way about automation and really think about the progress we can make towards this native cloud, and think about culture and people, process. Everything is data-driven. We must have a collaborative work style to make this possible. When we look at emerging tech, as we looked at this huge KPMG study that we ran, we actually pulled out what are the things that are most important that emerging tech is providing for organizations. And it's about improving decision-making, driving cost reduction, enhancing brand value. Those are the top 3 objectives. And you can see across different industries how this is taking place. You can see it's a foundation for infrastructure modernization in healthcare. We can look at improving decision-making in high tech, for example. So all these different areas of how the industries are looking at the emerging tech quandary. And we can also look at what is happening in general with how companies are looking at their strategies to run operationally in this environment. And right at the top here, automation is that catalyst to modernize legacy business practices. This is the #1 pursuit of strategy that operational leaders are driving now. It's about automation. Then it's about enabling a truly digital workforce with end-to-end automation. Then it's about reducing the workforce to adapt to the current environment. And it's about outsourcing more to get more agility and actually reduce some cost. So we are getting to the nub of the issue here. This is about automating and outsourcing and not adding people. That is the world that we're moving into. And that kind of was the world that we were in before, but people didn't do as much of the automation or as much as the outsourcing that's happening now as well. So we are definitely moving into a different mindset, which is about how can we do a lot more with what we've got versus this constant moving around of centralization of models. So, and then as we look at the attitudes towards outsourcing over the next 12 months, you can see here there's a strong appetite to increase business process outsourcing. So 32% of the Global 2000 are planning increases in BPO in the near term, and 28% are considering. When we look at the IT outsourcing space, we've probably seen that the service providers haven't been as impacted as we thought they would have been last year. And 28% have actually increased more outsourcing as a result of this, and 25% are considering their options. So we're anticipating a significant boom in the outsourcing industry in the coming months as we emerge in a stuttering fashion out of this pandemic economy into more of a hybrid economy where we look at the best of both worlds. So get ready to go native. We've gone from piecemeal automation, which was really what was happening about 10 years ago. I think moving into COVID, we were getting more into intelligent automation and understanding these intersection points between AI, automation, and analytics, which we call the AAA trifecta, which is essentially starting to think more about end-to-end automation. We weren't kind of getting there. We were sort of in between there and piecemeal automation. And the way we're going is this native automation mindset, which is about a digitally transformed business. And it's about not just people, process, and technology, but we need to look at data and change management as a big, big piece of that. And so we can look at what happens before and after in terms of progress with automation. Let's look at the have-to-haves. Now, in terms of importance, outcomes, always the most important thing. And in terms of progress, companies feel they're making the most progress towards that. In terms of process, it's very high in importance, but very low in progress. People, always high in importance, even higher in progress, which is good to say. I think people have adapted and changed in a very impressive way, in a very resilient way in many, many organizations because of COVID. And we have to commend many businesses for how they've carried their people through this and then looked after them during some very, very testing times. And technology, not quite as important, to be honest with you. It's much more about outcomes, process, and people. Technology enables that. And we must never forget that as we look into the future here. It's about great partnerships, getting the most out of our people and our outcomes, and technology as the enabler for how we want to run our businesses. It's not the strategy, it's the enabler. And then thinking more about how our service providers operate and our partners, they've got to be delivering to us in a way that is much more integrated across the AAA. So in many spaces, we've worked with implementation partners where you'd use different ones for automation and AI and analytics in many cases, but they were siloed. In terms of integrated functions, solution partners, they're formalizing elements of the AAA, but it's not well integrated, whereas transformational partners on the right here are where we've seen many service providers go all in and really elevate change agents and look at the intersection points between automation and AI and analytics to be truly effective in this market. So to wrap up here, I wanted to just look at this new dawn we see in 2025. We see this new dawn for bold enterprises. We're emerging from that fog of the famous 2020. It's clearing, right? And now we're looking at having no choice but to embrace this new world where I like to say it's a perfect alignment of business outcomes and their enabling technologies, which demand all our focus and creativity. It's a lot of focus. It's a lot of creativity. It's a lot of initiative. It's a lot of desire and willingness to change, learning to do business over a video screen, things like that. We have to move with the times. Things aren't going backwards. Things are moving forwards, and we will be effective at that. We've got no choice but to develop our employees' digital fluency, which we talked about. This is about embracing change and anticipating our customers' critical needs. We've got to collapse legacy business silos and align customers, employees, and partners as one office. This creates outcome-oriented process change that function effectively in the cloud. And then finally, this vision that we're putting out for 2025, it's about finding a North Star, finding the journey to design your company to thrive in this era. And the 5 fundamentals are quite simply the principle, connecting front to back, the talents around aligning employees with right-brained creative skills as well as operational skills, building an architecture that takes you straight to digital in an integrated fashion and with an integrated platform. It's about being competent and having not just people, process, and technology, but understanding how to include data and change management as part of that. And then finally, it's the strategy. We have to collaborate both internally and externally to find new thresholds of value. This is about reaching outside into emerging new supply chains, industries that are convoluting and merging and having different changes at the edges, right? Looking at value chains across industries, which we never thought we'd see before, understanding that retail, manufacturing, CPG, they're blending together in a very different way. Insurance is now a sales and marketing business, right? The healthcare value chain starts at the pharmacies on the high street, right through to the life sciences organizations producing medical supplies and drugs, right through to the biotechs, which are doing target identification and research into new vaccines and new areas of healthcare. So the world is shifting more than we could ever have envisaged, but it's doing it in a positive way as we emerge from this, that we care about our values more, we care about our organizations. Many of us are embracing a hybrid work environment where we will meet up and do great meetings and go to great conferences, but we'll make sure we invest our time wisely with each other. And then we can do business over Zoom and Teams and these types of things, because that's what we do. We've embraced change, and now we've got to keep embracing it because it's getting exciting. Touch wood, the economy is going to be improving as we continue to unravel and emerge from the pandemic. And we're in an exciting new world where we can embrace, I think, a different way of working that we're getting used to now. So I very much appreciate everybody's time today. I know we're all very busy, and I know many of you have dialed in around the world to listen to this. And I do hope that we can meet again very soon in the future. Over to you, Mittal.
Thank you, Phil, for the insightful session on the ongoing industry trends and the potential of intelligent automation.